Hi, this is Jason from Horrific Nightmares, and welcome back to the Fangoria Movie Challenge. This is the segment I do with my good buddy Joe, where we're not only going to watch, but also review all 101 movies Fangoria thinks we should have seen. Today, we're going to be talking about Screamers. Screamers is a 1995 film, which runs approximately 108 minutes, and is directed by Christian Dugrey. Now, he was responsible for Adrift, Extreme Ops, which I've seen, but it's been a long time, and Boot Camp, which is really good. This stars Peter Weller as Joe Henriksen. He was in RoboCop, Of Unknown Origin, and Naked Lunch. Roy Dupuis as Becker. He was in Brain Freeze, Barefoot at Dawn, and The Sound of Trees. And Jennifer Rubin as Jessica Hansen. She was in The Crush, A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, and The Doors. Now, this was written by Dan O'Bannon, who had something to do with Return of the Living Dead, of course. And the budget on this movie was $20 million. And this had a worldwide gross, and this is pretty bad, of $5,711,695. So it was a huge flop. Now, this was based on a short story by Philip K. Dick, who is an amazing writer. He was the one who was responsible for Blade Runner, which the story was, Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep? And he wrote this, which is called Second Variety, a short story. Now, this has a very complicated story, okay? And it's one of the ones where you have to read the beginning, although they do narrate it. But you have this planet called Sirius B, which people are mining beryllium. Now, this beryllium is solving the energy problem for Earth. But there's a problem. The NEB, which stands for New Economic Bloc, are actually mining the beryllium and treating its miners pretty badly. So they come up with this alliance of miners and rights and all that kind of stuff called the Alliance. So it's basically a war on Sirius B, or Sirius 6B, between the NEBs and the Alliance. And the film takes place in 2078. And what happened was the government put these deterrents in the planet, deep in the planet, which are now called Screamers. I don't really know how much to tell about this film. Basically, they want to stop the war, of course. They've been there for so long. And mining the beryllium actually has an adverse reaction because it's full of radiation. So it's kind of weird. They have to smoke these red cigarettes in order to get down the radiation in their system. Very creative story. So Joe Henriksen, who's part of the Alliance, gets a message from the leader of the NEB. It's basically like a 101, and they're supposed to meet together. Meanwhile, you have these Screamers, who are, of course, deterrents, put there by the government, which are these machines that have saws, and they go underground, and they are able to detect your heartbeat and kind of kill you from there. So they go on a kind of like a mission to talk to the leader of the NEB, Peter Weller, and a couple, well, one person, and in order to stop the war. It's a very complicated story. So what happens is they start finding out more about these Screamers as they go along in the open land. They have these wristbands that are supposed to knock down their pulse so that the Screamers can't get to them. But, you know, one thing leads to another. You start finding out the government started messing with things, and that's pretty much where I'm going to leave it. This is a much more fun movie to watch than it is to explain, because I probably didn't do it enough justice. But it's a fantastic idea, and I always like this. Always been a big fan of Peter Weller. As I was talking to Joe the other night when we were watching, I was like, I can watch him in anything. I can probably watch him paint the wall. It's just, he's a very interesting, charismatic person. And this is kind of a different part for him. He's kind of a gruff military leader in this one. But it suits his character. Yeah. As a relatable recommendation, I'm going to recommend something that I don't even know if people know exists. But it is the sequel to Screamers, which no one ever talks about. Actually, no one really ever talks about Screamers either, but even less about the sequel. And no, this is not Screamers 4. Brad and Joe will get that. But anyway, this is called Screamers The Hunting, I believe. Yeah. Now, I originally saw this on cable and was really pleased to find this at a thrift store. This kind of takes the story a little bit further. It's a little bit less horror in the second one and more sci-fi and more action. Now, this does have Stephen Amell in it from the Arrow series, the guy that played the Green Arrow. And it was probably the first movie I saw, well, that's actually not true. Well, the first movie I saw with him in it after I had started watching Arrow. Now, I did see him in a show called Hung on HBO Max. But he's really a good actor, in my opinion, and I loved the Arrow show. But yeah, check out Screamers. Criminally underrated movie that really doesn't get talked about. Screamers 2 is, of course, in my opinion, not as good as the first Screamers. Screamers The Hunting or whatever. But it is a fun sequel. So check out Screamers The Hunting. And don't forget to check out Joe's review and see what his relatable recommendation is. And if you like what you see in here, hit that like button and subscribe. And until next time, peace.